I don't know about all this. Oh, I'm getting it everywhere, no! Chartreuse. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. That was super sweet of you. And welcome back to my uneven butterfly clips. While I'm fixing my butterfly clips, did you guys notice I have two different eye looks on today? Did you even notice? Are you even paying attention to my two different eye looks? So I got two different eye looks on today because I wanted to use a palette. You guys know what the video is about. You can anticipate what's going on in my face here. But I want to know which eye is your favorite. Before the video even starts, let me know in the comments which eye is your favorite. Is it eye number 1, which has a bit of an aquamarine color story going on? Aquamarine, also coincidentally my favorite childhood movie starring Sarah Palmer, JoJo, and Emma Roberts. If you haven't seen it, go watch it right now. It's so good. It's about mermaids, and that's all you need to know. So do you like the aquamarine eye better, or do you like the grungy green eye better? Let me know in the comments down below. I would like to hear from you. I would also like to hear if you've seen Aquamarine and if you are as passionate about it as I am. But that's not what this video is about. You did not click on this video to hear an IMDb style summary of the movie Aquamarine. No, you clicked on this video because you, like me, have an interest in me duping the new Kaleidos Flower Punk eyeshadow palette. Oh my goodness, this eyeshadow palette is gorgeous. Anytime I dupe an eyeshadow palette, it is because I love that eyeshadow palette. But my wallet wants me to behave myself and see if I can't find it in my own collection before buying it. I want to make up low buy this year. That's basically the rundown of why I do these duping videos. And I was actually just talking about how much I love this palette in my last video, which was new makeup releases that I'm actually excited for, because look at it. Get a load of this palette. This color story is super intriguing. Kaleidos always gets me with the color stories. I felt the same way about the Club Nebula palette, which I also duped on my channel. So you know what? Me and you, Kaleidos, someday we're gonna get together. Someday I'm gonna buy a palette, I promise. So if that sounds like a topic that is interesting to you and you want to see me dupe the new Kaleidos Flower Punk palette, then I encourage you to please subscribe and keep on watching. It's coming at you right now. Alright, so I did do some prior research for this video. I have found in my other eyeshadow palette duping videos, it's best for me to take a look at my palettes beforehand. Here's some footage of me being in the depths of all of my eyeshadow palettes, doing swatches, making comparisons, having dirty paper towels, and just having a grand old good time. But now I'm here, I'm ready, I'm prepared. But today what I'm going to be doing is swatching each individual shade for you. I'll have the picture of the real Flower Punk palette on this side, and then we'll have my arm right next to it so you can really see the comparisons here. My wrist is so raw, my hands are so dry. If you see any sort of redness or it looks like there's a ring around my wrist, that is because my hands are so dry. I literally cannot keep them from drying out. It's been a struggle, but that's not what this video is about. Let's get right into the swatches, and I want to go in the same order as the arm swatch here. I could only find this one picture of the Flower Punk palette swatches. I don't know if it's from Kaleidos or what, but I saw the picture on Trend Mood's page, so this is the photo that I'm going off of. I typically like to compare a few photos just because I feel like swatches don't always look the same in every lighting, but this is the only photo I have, so that's what I'm going off of today. I've made so many disclaimers already. Disclaimers over. No more disclaimers for the rest of the video. Okay, so we are going to start from the top down. We're going to start with that beautiful grungy green shade, and as soon as I saw this palette tease, right after I was like, I want to buy it, it looks so beautiful, I was like, Ace Beautē Oceanic palette. I got some of those shades in there. I'm only going to be using one, surprisingly, because I got a lot of grungy greens, and I tried to pick the most true to color for each one, but for that top grungy green shade, I am going to be dipping into the Ace Beautē Oceanic palette and using the shade Seaweed. You can see on my finger here, it looks like it's a good match, right? I will say about the Ace Beautē Oceanic palette, it's not the best swatching palette. Like, the first time I swatched it, I was kind of like, ooh, I don't know about all this, but it does work really beautifully on the eyes. I'm wearing it on my eyes today, actually. I'll insert the footage here of me applying this shade to my right eye. It does build up really nicely. I really like this shade. It's a beautiful color. I was so happy to see it in the Flower Punk palette, but I do feel like I have the shade in my own collection here. What do you guys think? I was kind of torn on this shade because when you look at it in the pan versus the picture of the swatches, I feel like it looks lighter in the swatches than it does on the pan. So I was kind of going back and forth between using this shade from the Beautē Oceanic palette and using another shade from my Beautbean x Shroud It's Freaking Bats palette, which I'm also going to use, but I don't know. I ended up going with the darker one because I feel like it just makes the most sense to me between looking at the two pictures. I don't know, maybe it's a flash photo and that's why it looks a little lighter in the swatches. But this is our first shade. Now moving on to the next shade, which is that beautiful word I can never say, Chartreuse. I feel like it's easier to say in an accent. Chartreuse. Ooh, how glamorous am I? Okay, but we're gonna go into the palette I just mentioned, which is the Beautbean x Shroud It's Freaking Bats palette. I was lucky enough to get my hands on this palette. I know a lot of people have not been able to yet, but it looks like they're almost done, so that's very exciting. But this is the shade Handbook. Super, super pretty. I had a lot of shimmery greens that could have worked for this, but I went with my favorite shimmery green, shimmery Chartreuse. Chartreuse, it's Chartreuse, it's not green. And yeah, let's take a look-see for comparison here. All right, beautiful color. What do we think? I'm looking at my own picture here that I have right next to the camera. I feel like this is a really good match. This might be one of my absolute strongest. You know what? I have a lot of strong matches, but this one I feel like looks really, really good, and I am ready to move on to the next shade. All right, full disclosure, I did go ahead and re-swatch those first two shades real quick just because the shade was irritating the dryness on my hands. So yeah, but they're the exact same shades. I just scooted them down a little further. But let's move on to our third shade. This is the one that I was telling you from the It's Freaking Bats palette that I wasn't sure if I wanted to make the first or third shade, is this shade Trapa from the It's Freaking Bats palette weirdly swatches darker than it looks in the pan. It's an anomaly, is that the right word? It's a mystery. Yes, it's definitely a mysterious shade because it looks lighter in the pan, and then on the finger it looks the same. You'll see when I put it on the arm, but I'm gonna try to swatch it lightly because I feel like a lighter swatch would better serve this dupe. And I don't often apply this shade full opacity. Oh, I'm also wearing these. I'm wearing every single shade on my eyes today, literally nearly every single shade. I think I'm wearing every single shade in the palette but one on my eyes, so I'll definitely overlay the footage of me putting those last two shades on here so you can see how pretty they look on the eyes. Oh, they look so nice. But here is my third swatch. I feel like it's a pretty good match. I know it might look slightly deeper, but this is the other thing with the swatches of the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette versus the actual palette. I feel like my shade is a perfect match in the palette. However, in the swatches, I find that shade leans a little more mustardy. So I chose to go with this shade because I feel like the theme of the Flower Punk palette is Chartreuse. So I went with the more Chartreuse shade of the two. So you guys can let me know what you think. Here it is next to the arm swatches. You know, mine might be a hint more green, a hint more Chartreuse, but here it is next to the palette, and I feel like it's the exact same shade. So that is the executive decision I made, and I am the CEO of this channel, so that is the decision I made. All right, so now moving on to our last green. This is one of only two shades that I need to mix two shades together on, and I'm gonna be taking my Melolops Radioactive Eyeshadow Palette, one of my favorite palettes of all time, and I'm gonna be taking mostly the shade Raise, this yellow, with just a hint of the shade Slime. I don't mind mixing shades together for these duping videos because you guys, in real life, I'm mixing shades all the live long day. That's my whole thing, man. And I'm actually wearing those shades under my eye today, on my lower lash line, if you will. I'll put a little footage over here now. Ooh, how pretty. What a pretty shade. See how nicely those mix together. And here it is swatched. I might need to do a little bit of mixology on the spot here. I'm gonna kind of do a little back and forth sort of a business. I also just think it speaks highly of an eyeshadow formula when you can mix two shades together really well, and I can definitely do that with the Melolops Radioactive palette. I find all of those shades mix really well together. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Do you guys think it's a good match? I was between mixing these two shades from the Melolops palette or using the Beautē Oceanic palette again, because there is a shade in there called Algae, but I felt that Algae was a hint too, yeah, it's like a hint too neon-y green. But I feel like my little mixology shade here is closer to the Flower Punk palette. What do you guys think? Let me know. I like that I'm asking you shade by shade. I won't ask again. Just tell me at the end if you think it's a good match. Okay, now we're done with our Chartreuse section here, and we can move into the pinky middle section. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna call it. Pinky middles, like intestines. The intestinal section. That's gross. I'm sorry. But now for my Flower Punk dupe, I'm going to move into my Flower Bomb palette. This is one of my favorite palettes ever. It's from Midas Cosmetics. It's such a good palette. It is absolutely not a dupe palette by any means. I'm going to be taking one shade from it. They are very different takes on flowers. I love them both though. I love both color stories. And from the Flower Bomb palette, I'm going to be taking the shade Magnolia because I feel like it's that same sort of peachy pinky tone that we see in the Flower Punk palette. All right, and I am wearing this one on the lower lash line on my aquamarine eye. I think it's a really nice complement to the blues. I wanted to mix more of the colors from this palette together, but honestly I kind of feel like the Flower Punk palette is operating on two different color stories because you have your grungy chartreuse end here, and now we have our pinky middles, which I guess is like our transition maybe, I don't know, and then you have your like minty blues and purples. So I don't know, it's a little incohesive for me. Like I like all the colors, but I feel like the sides are kind of like, you know, the two looks you can do. But anyway, this is the shade Magnolia. I feel like it's a good match for the pink shade in the Flower Punk palette. Now moving on to that brownish mauve-ish shade. I don't know how to describe that shade. It looks like a brown in the pan, but swatched it looks kind of like a mauve brownish. I'm gonna stop trying to describe it because I'm not doing it well. But for that shade, I'm gonna be doing my last mixology shade, and that is in the Lady Boss palette. This is from Amor Beauty. I got this in my Cheeky Beauty box a couple months ago. Really nice palette. So we are gonna be mixing the shade Hustle and CEO here. This is the only way I could make this shade. The shade's kind of weird to me. I don't know. I kind of prefer the way it looks in the palette, like a true neutral brown, but swatched out, it definitely has some mauviness to it. So that's what I'm going for here. And this is the only shade I am not wearing on the eyes. I'm sorry, I'm just simply not a brown eyeshadow gal. At least not at this time of the year. I mean, maybe in the, oh, I'm getting it everywhere, no! But yeah, as I was saying, I'm just simply not a brown eyeshadow gal. Maybe every once in a while in the fall, but I do not reach for shades like this ever. But I do feel like this is a good match for the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. So yay, 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 ah, covered in brown eyeshadow. Okay, now we get to move on to what I think is the most fun part of the palette. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is my favorite eye. The aquamarine eye is my favorite eye. I use those last three colors there and the pinky Magnolia shade, but it's definitely my favorite part of the palette, and I wish they would just sell that as like, you know, a trio. I don't know, are eyeshadow trios a thing? You know what, that's not true. I don't want any of it because I already have all of the colors. Never mind, don't make a trio, Kaleidos. Do not listen to my advice. Kaleidos, I'm gonna buy a palette from you one day. That's not what this video is about. Let me swatch the purple shade for you. Okay, so with my next two shades, I am gonna apply a little bit of my NYX glitter primer just because that's how I applied them on the eyes, and I want to give them the same chance to perform on my arm as they do on the eyes. Okay, so for my next two shades, I'm gonna be dipping into my Copacetic Cosmetics Companion palette, which is one of my favorite palettes of all time. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. And the first shade is that purpley shade, and I feel like this shade from the Copacetic Cosmetics Companion palette, a mouthful, if you will. I feel like this shade is a really good match. And this shade is called Robin, and this is a purple to blue to pink duochrome. They say duochrome, but like honestly it's kind of a multi-chrome. It's really pretty, and I feel like from that swatch it looks like a good match to me, because this is another one, when you look at the shade in the palette versus the swatch, they look totally different. The shade in the palette looks very bland. It looks like a bland pink, but swatched it looks like a beautiful purpley pink duochrome, and I feel like that's what this shade is here here. Oh, it's so pretty. Mine might have a hint more blue. Honestly, I don't really care. I find it very beautiful. I'm wearing it on the inner corner of my aquamarine eye look today. I'll have some footage here of me applying it over some glitter primer, and you can see how beautiful it is. I really like how Kaleidos threw that purple in the palette. I think that was really, really smart. I feel like it complements those minty colors really, really well, and I loved how it looked on the eyes together. This palette has inspired me with color stories, you know? Even though I'm not gonna buy it, I'm feeling inspired, and for that, Kaleidos, I am very grateful, so thank you so much. Now let's move on to that mint shade. Is mint the right word to describe this next shade? I don't know. It's a beautiful green, that's what I'm gonna call it, and that's also gonna come from my Copacetic Cosmetics Companion palette. The shade Megan in the beautiful, oh my gosh, Freudian slip, oh my goodness, can you tell? I think it's very beautiful. This is my favorite green shimmer of all time, hands down, no contest. This is such a beautiful shade. MJones, who was the collaborator on this palette, did such a phenomenal job with these colors, and this shade is just so, so special. I love Megan so much. Alrighty, here, let's swatch Megan. And this shade I'm also wearing on my eyes. I'm wearing it in the center of my aquamarine eye. It's so, so pretty, so shimmery and beautiful. Ugh, and especially applied over a glitter primer. Freaking get about it. Alright, and then here you have my arm swatches. Ooh, I feel like I gotta tilt my arm back so you can really see the light hitting these duochromes here. Well, I guess Megan's not a duochrome, but Robin is a duochrome, but they're both so pretty. I feel like it really dupes the vibes, if nothing else, of the Kaleidos shimmers. I feel like Kaleidos's shimmers are really, really special, especially their shifty shimmers, so those are always my most challenging thing to dupe, but I feel like I've duped the vibes for sure. And honestly, I feel like these shades, from what I can tell of the swatches, are pretty close. Alright, now moving on to our last shade, which is a matte. It's kind of the matte version of this shade, I feel like, which is fun. I love putting those two colors together, and I feel like my closest match is from the Lady Boss palette from Amor, Beautē, and the shade I'm going to be using is called Impact. I feel like it's just the perfect matte counterpart to the beautiful, beautiful shimmer. And I am wearing this shade on the outer portion, and honestly somewhat into the center of the lid on my aquamarine eye, my eye on the left here. Is it on your left? Is it on my left? It's on somebody's left, that's for certain. Alrighty, and here you have it. Here's that last shade swatched. I really do, like I was just saying, I feel like it's the perfect matte counterpart to that shimmer, and I think it's so pretty. So you guys, we've reached the end of my dupes. What do you think? How does it look? I am gonna insert a photo that I will take of these swatches on my arm, just because I feel like sometimes the camera can wash it out. So I have a nice phone photo for you here, so you can hopefully see it a little more true to color. Like I said, a couple of the shades I was really torn on what to pick, just because some of them looked so different swatched than they did on the arm swatches. I really feel like those arm swatches are a flash photo, which I personally don't like to see arm swatches in a flash photo because I don't often participate. I'm not often seen in flash photos, you know? So I want to know what it's going to look like in natural light more than anything, and then maybe, I don't know, just like fluorescent light, not fluorescent light, ugh, I don't ever want to be seen in fluorescent light, maybe in a soft white or something like that. But I kind of killed it, you guys. I feel really good about this. When I saw this palette after, like I said, after I went through my whole, oh my god, I want to buy it, it's so beautiful, I love it so much, my brain was like, hey you, hey lady out there with the mouth, you have all those shades. And I was like, wow, brain, thank you so much for telling me that. You are so smart. And brain was like, duh, I'm the brain. I have too much fun. But yeah, I feel like I have dupes for every single shade in this palette, which is amazing because now I don't need to buy it. But if you don't have dupes for these shades, I definitely feel like, yeah, you should buy it. This is a beautiful palette. This is a beautiful color story. My only criticism, like I mentioned earlier, is just that I don't think it's the most cohesive color story. Like I definitely see two distinct looks with this color story, which is what I tried to create for you here today. But when I was swatching tester swatches earlier, I tried mixing these together. Like I tried swatching one of the minty blues next to the grungy chartreuses, and to me, it just really didn't look like a good combination. So I'm not sure what an eye look would look like if I like mixed all of these colors together. Maybe I'll try that on a day I'm not filming just to like test it out, and I'll update you guys on my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram @GlamGONYC. But yeah, maybe I'll try that a day. But for me, I'm like chartreuse and mint just like don't really go together. I know they both have a hint of green in them, but they're just such different greens. I don't know, maybe I'm just being presumptuous and maybe it would actually look beautiful. But I am really happy that I can save a little money and know that I have all of these colors in my own collection. So that's super exciting. And look, I already showed you 2 beautiful looks using the palette. You guys always request when I do my duping videos that I then do like a tutorial showing you how to use the palette. So today I tried to do a little bit of both in one, you know, show you that footage of me applying the makeup. And yeah, I covered it with graphic liner afterwards. I'm sorry, that's kind of my thing. Whenever I put eyeshadow on, I like to add graphic liner to make it extra bold because that's just who I am. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I do duping videos like this kind of a lot. I have previously duped the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. I have also duped the Menagerie Cosmetics Flight Club palette. I've duped the ColourPop Lizzie McGuire palette, and that's it so far, but I just duped the Flower Punk palette, so I will definitely do more in the future. Let me know if you have any eyeshadow palette requests you want me to dupe for you. I'd love to dupe it for you. So thanks so much for watching. Check out my description box for details on every shade I used today. I will list them out in order for you in case there was a shade that you were like, ooh, that was fun. Also in my description box, I will have a bunch of Black Lives Matter resources as well as resources to support the Asian American community. Those are available in every single one of my description boxes, and I highly encourage you to check those links out. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. And may I add, I'll dupe you later. Alright, bye.